President Biden playing the blame game after yet another brutal new poll. He's now pointing the finger at worried Americans and says they could just be confused about the job he is really doing. The president underwater on nearly every big issue the country faces. A growing number of Americans not happy with how he is handling surging inflation and the economy. And Biden hitting a new low on how he is managing the pandemic. 53% like the job he is doing on COVID. After months of bad polling news, Biden says he has stopped keeping track.
How much do you pay attention to approval ratings?
Well, not anymore. No, I'm joking. I was paying attention in the mid-60s. Now in the mid-40s, I don't pay attention anymore. Look, people are afraid. People are worried. And people are getting so much inaccurate information. They're being told that, Armageddon's on the way.
But after the White House went around to all the media companies and said, you should be giving us better coverage, some in the media are giving Biden leeway on the polling disaster, arguing that it's just out of his control.
It seems as if there's nothing the White House can do to improve their political standing these days. It does feel like every week there's another poll. It's a new bottom. It's a new this. And some of it is out of their control. His two big promises were to get COVID behind us and to get rid of Donald Trump. COVID's not behind us and Donald Trump's still lurking. It's not his fault.
So, Jesse, I'm confused by this you're all just confused crisis response because have you ever told a woman she's just confused?
I've told a woman
they
a lot
do not
of things,
like it.
Dana.
They don't like it.
I know. The one time I told a woman that, the last time I did that. Do you know how small the President of the United States has to look to go on a late-night TV show, Zoom, by the way, not in person, and complain that no one listens to him anymore? Jimmy, nobody trusts what I say anymore. It's like the American people, they're just so anxious, and they're just a bunch of suckers who'll believe anything anybody tells them. Right, Jimmy? Jimmy, you tell him. You're the good guy, right? Tell him how I have inflation under control. Tell him how crime is down. Tell him how I saved 3 cents in gas, right, Jimmy? Everybody else is lying, but Jimmy, you and I are telling the truth. And then he gets up and he says, you know what? Everyone's scared. Well, who scared him, Joe? You have still people putting face masks on babies. Yep. You have people double vaxxed, boosted, test negative, and still have to wear a mask. They're scared because you scared them. And now, not only that, you have high crime and you have high prices, and the American people feel that. And they're not going to listen to a politician tell them they're not feeling what they're actually feeling. And then there's Chuck Todd, who has this problem among many. He says, I only care about the access I'm getting. I don't care about putting on a good broadcast. He's worried about not getting exclusive with Joe Biden, not getting the Mayor Pete exclusive, not getting the Kamala sit down. So he's not going to say anything too critical. He figured out a crafty way to do it, though, didn't he? He goes, well, you know what? There are a lot of really bad things happening in this country, especially with the administration, but it's not Joe's fault. So when Donald Trump overpromised and underdelivered, that was because he was an incompetent loser. But when Joe Biden overpromises and underdelivers, it's something he can't control. And that is a straight news reporter talking. That's a straight news guy in a straight news Sunday show on a broadcast network trying to be straight. That's why no one watches.
And they sounded a little depressed.
Yes.
A little depressed. Harold, last week you said that Democrats, and all politicians actually, not just Democrats, but that you should meet voters where they are. And one of the things you see here is that the voters are in this position looking at gas prices and inflation for their groceries and all the work requirements and things that are coming because of COVID. And then the White House is saying, well, actually, it's not as bad as you think. And actually, the wages have gone up. And actually, it's all this and that and the other thing. So that there's this big disconnect. Do you think that's one of the reasons the poll numbers are what they are?
I don't think there's any doubt. I'm just glad someone remembered what I said last week.
Oh, yeah, I wrote it down.
You have to meet people where they are and then explain where you want to take them. And unfortunately, for Joe Biden, the incongruity is he's right on some of this. The economy is doing much better. We've created over 5 million jobs since he's been president. Jobless claims are down. Wages are up for a lot of Americans. The problem is it's not connecting with anyone. And you don't do, I agree with Jesse, you don't tell the people you're wrong and you should be listening and whomever you're talking to, we're right. I don't know what's wrong with these people.
Wiping out the wage gains.
Right, but that's why you have to meet people where they are and explain that we shut the economy down. There are a lot of reasons and there's a narrative behind this. But you can't preach to people if people aren't in the congregation. You got to sit with them. You got to meet them. You got to let them understand. The president in my lifetime who understood this best was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton met people where they were. He felt their pain. And right now, I don't think that Joe Biden is connecting with everyday Americans that way. I think if I were in that White House and you were in that communications team, and it's a good team they have, you got to step back and say, something's missing here. And how do we figure out, how do we bring that about? There is no doubt that COVID remains omnipresent in how our economy and trading markets are reacting to things, whether we like it or not. The truth is the market was down today. If you look at the analysis, they say it's the Omicron variant, and it may be what the Fed may or may not do. I thought Kevin Warsh had a great piece in the Wall Street Journal on this today.
Yeah.
That being said, if President Biden in the White House, meet people where they are. Don't tell them they don't understand. Meet them where they are and then tell your story.
So, Dagan, if they did do what Harold's suggesting, what would they find?
They can't admit that inflation's a problem. To Jesse's point, wages are down almost 3% this year when you adjust for inflation. They can't admit it because they will never, ever do anything to fight it. What's important is their agenda and their worldview. Their worldview is we govern for the green climate movement, and their agenda is to pass this giant welfare monstrosity, and because they know it will end up being permanent. It's not going away. It's not getting repealed, just like Obamacare. So they want to put in place welfare program after welfare program after welfare program. If they admit spending, at least in small part, is part of the problem, then that blows it up. And it gives Joe Manchin ammunition to say, I'm not doing that. But at least Biden and company are consistent on one thing, whether it's the welfare monstrosity, inflation, the border, Afghanistan, the talking points are always completely false. They're lies and they're untethered from reality. And to that point, that they don't give a flying damn about any of this because just one example, Biden stopped federal aid to new fossil fuel projects overseas 3 days ago. Energy prices are global. If they can't, they would not do that if they cared about energy prices.
All right, a last word to you, Greg.
Well, I was watching that Joe talking about his low ratings on Fallon, and Fallon laughed, and I hadn't seen it, but he could relate.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting. But it was funny. It's like watching an overzealous puppy, like, licking crumbs off an old man's chin. He's desperately trying to repair his reputation after being nice to Trump for once. So difficult to do this show sometimes because when you serve up a line, Dana, that says every week Joe finds a new bottom, and I can't make a joke. It's really hard. It's just not fair. So I'm going to sit here because it's Monday.
My mind didn't go there.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not going anywhere either. But it's amazing to me. So Chuck Todd basically still blames Trump for being alive, right? It's like it's incredible. It's like does he prefer that Trump be struck by lightning? Because it's just like the reason why Joe's not doing well is because Trump's still around. And why can't he be like a good Republican, pass away like Bob Dole or John McCain or George Herbert Walker Bush, and then you can admire them, right? Because as you know, you vilify them when they're alive, and then you admire them when they're dead. So that's how it works, and that's why Chuck is sitting there going like, what's going on here? It is pathetic. Joe blames misinformation, but saying the Build Back Better Act will pay for itself. Where's that coming from? That's coming from Joe. That Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist. Where'd that come from? That came from Joe. The border security was whipping people. Where did that come from? That came from Joe. That vaccines weren't safe. Where'd that come from? Came from Joe. That Smollett was a victim? Joe. Tornadoes caused by climate change, man-made climate change, that came from Joe. So all this misinformation ain't coming from anybody but his own mouth.
But you just reminded me of that whipping story.
Yeah, remember that one away?
Well, yeah, but
where's the investigation?
Where's the We demand an answer.
Exactly. Whip it into shape.
Because, you know, they benched those guys.
Yeah, they did.
It can't work.
They did.
I want an answer.
Yeah.
I expect one
Remember
on
how
my desk
they
by
were
tomorrow.
completely demonized.
Yeah.
There's not going to be an investigation.
Well,
I'll
bring it to the bottom of it by tomorrow morning on News.
Get to the bottom of it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.